Okay, Algebra 2C, we're here working on problems 16 through 28 in Chapter 7 review. So if I'm looking at 16, I take the cube root of 8, a to the 8th, b to the 11th, and c to the 15th. So I'm going to break it off into three separate parts. So I have the cube root of a to the 8th times the cube root of b to the 11th times the cube root of c to the 15th. So I'm going to do each part at a time. How many times does 3 go into 8? It goes in twice with a remainder of 2. Okay. And now b, how many times does 3 go into 11? It goes in 3 times with a remainder of 2 as well. And then how many times does 3 go into 15? It goes in 5 times perfectly. And there's actually no remainder, so it's just written as c to the 5th. And I'm going to pull out front everything that's not underneath the cube root. So I have a squared, b to the 3rd, and c to the 5th. And then underneath that cube root, I have my a squared and b squared. So that's my final answer. For number 17, I have, remember there's an imaginary coefficient of 1 here. So if I have 1 root 2 plus 1 root 2, that means I have 2 root 2's. That's my final answer there. For number 18, I need to simplify first because the only way we can add like terms is if they are the same number underneath that radical. So right now we cannot do that. So I'm going to break the cube root of 128 off into 64 times the cube root of 2. And I'm going to break the cube root of 250 into the cube roots of 125 times the cube root of 2 as well. So now the cube root of 64 simplifies to 4, the cube root of 2, and the cube root of 125 simplifies to 5 times the cube root of 2. So now I have 4 cube roots of 2 and 5 cube roots of 2. Add them together, you get 9 cube roots of 2. But notice how we can only add them together if they're the same radical and the same number underneath the radical. Okay, so now we're looking at number 19. This is multiplication. So what I can do is I can combine underneath both numbers. So I can do the multiplication of 14 times 35 underneath the radical. This gives me 490. And now I'm just going to simplify that. I can break that off into a perfect square. 49 times the square root of 10. Because we know the square root of 49 is just 7. So this simplifies to 7 root 10. Number 20, same idea. I can combine them underneath because they're both cube roots. So 6 times 36. This gives me 216. And the cube root of 216 is actually a perfect cube, which is just 6. Okay, moving on to 21. Same idea. Okay, as long as they're the same root. So in this case, they're both square roots. So I can combine them underneath the square root. 5 times 10 gives me 50. X to the 3rd times x to the 3rd gives me x to the 6th. And y times y to the 4th gives me y to the 5th. So I'm going to break it off into 3 easier pieces. Square root of 50 times square root of x to the 6th times square root of y to the 5th. The square root of 50 is going to split off into the square root of 25 times square root of 2. Okay, how many times does 2 go into 6? It goes in 3 times. So that simplifies to x to the 3rd. How many times does 2 go into 5? It goes in twice. So I have a y squared on the outside and then a remainder of 1. Now I'm going to put everything out front that can be simplified. So remember, the square root of 25 is a perfect square. So that's going to give me a 5 here. I have my x cubed. I have my y squared, and then underneath that radical is just 2y. Okay, number 22, still multiplication, but we need to distribute the square root of x. Okay, so I'm going to distribute to both parts, and I can do what I did number 21. I can multiply what's underneath the square root. So I get x times x, which gives me the square root of x squared. And I have the square root of x times the square root of 2, which gives me the square root of 2x. Okay? So now I need to simplify each part. The square root of x squared is just going to be x. And I can't simplify anything else there, so it's going to be just the square root of 2x. Okay? Only a few more problems to go there. Looking at number 23, we have to distribute again. So I'm going to distribute the square root of x times the square root of x, which gives me the square root of x squared. The square root of x times y, which gives me y on the outside and still just the square root of x underneath. And the same thing over here, y times the square root of x. And this is going to give me a negative y squared. Okay? If you notice the two middle terms, y times the square root of x minus the y times the square root of x simplifies to just 0. And then we have the square root of x squared is just x. So our final answer is just x minus y squared. Okay, number 24 is division. And just like multiplication, if they're both square roots or cube roots or the same kind of root, then we can combine them underneath. Division symbol, so I have 32x squared over 2x. If you notice, that simplifies to 16x. Okay, now the square root of 16x, we can simplify, and I'm going to break it off into the square root of 16 times the square root of x. And we know the square root of 16 simplifies to 4, so it's just 4 times the square root of x. Okay, 25, same idea. I'm going to put them underneath the same square root here. 65ab to the 4th over 5ab. I can simplify what's underneath there. 65 divided by 5 gives me 13. A divided by a just simplifies to 1. And b to the 4th divided by b gives me b to the 3rd. And now I'm going to simplify each part. Okay, the square root of 13 times the square root of b to the 3rd. We can't simplify the square root of 13 anymore, but we can simplify the square root of b to the 3rd. So we can pull 1 out because 2 goes into 3 times 1. And then we have a remainder of 1b. So now my final answer is the b out front and the square root of 13b. Okay, 3 more problems there. So these are the most difficult problems. Remember, we have division. We need to get that radical out of the denominator. So we're taking the cube root of 3, and our goal is to get 3 3's in the denominator. Because we know a cube root of anything to the 3rd power just simplifies to itself. So if I have 3 3's in the denominator now, I need to get 2 more of them, okay? So I'm going to cube root 3 squared, because if I have 1 here and 2 here, that's going to give me 3 of them. Okay, remember you do the same thing in the numerator that we did in the denominator. Okay, so now the numerator is just the cube root of 3 squared. And now I have the cube root of 3 to the 3rd power. Now the cube root of 3 to the 3rd power just simplifies to itself, which is what the base is, which is 3. And our final answer, 3 squared is 9, so I have the cube root of 9 over 3. That's my final answer. For number 27, I have the square root of 3 over the square root of 7. I need to get this radical out of the denominator. So if I already have 1 7, all I need is 2 of them because I'm taking a square root. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by the square root of 7, which is just a form of 1, which gives me the square root of 21, which is 3 times 7. And then square root of 7 over square root of 7 just simplifies to 7. Okay, number 28 is pretty difficult. We're taking the cube root of 4x in the denominator. So I only have 1 4 and 1 x. And I need to have 2 more of each so I can get to 3 4's and 3 x's. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by the cube root of 4 squared, which gives me 2 more 4's, times x squared, which gives me 2 more x's. Okay, so now if I only had 1 in the beginning, now I have 2 more of each, which gives me 3 of each. So my numerator is now 2 times the cube root of 4 squared times x squared. And in the denominator, I have the cube root of 4 to the 3rd times x to the 3rd. Okay, that denominator simplifies to just 4x because the cube root of 4 to the 3rd is 4, and the cube root of x to the 3rd is just x. So my final answer, well, I'm going to get one more step after this. I have 2 times the cube root of 4 squared x squared, all over just 4x. And we can simplify 2 over 4 to 1 over 2, which is going to give us our final answer. So I have 1 times the cube root of 4 squared x squared over just 2x. Okay, so that's the problems number 16 through 28.